Assalamu alaikum. Thanks goes out to every single one of you that supported me via buymeacoffee.com during this absolutely hard time. Alhamdulillah, now I'm out of the hospital. I'm still in recovery, but I cannot thank you guys enough for your ongoing help. May Allah bless you all, protect you, and grant you health and wealth. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Bobby. Guys, absolutely fascinating video today. We're gonna react to Infidel Noodle with her video My Journey Away from Islam. The video is only 3 minutes long, so it's going to be a quick reaction video today. That being said, I'm going to make a bet without having watched the video. I'm going to say that it was liberalism yet again that swayed this woman here away from Islam. Because in 99.999% of instances, so-called ex-Muslims leave Islam for liberalism. Honestly, it is such a small percentage sometimes that people adopt another religion, such as Christianity predominantly, and this is what they leave Islam for. But it's really a small number of people. In most instances, it is liberalism. People simply cannot cope with the strictness, with the laws of Islam, and they want to follow their desires ultimately. Anyways, let's see if I'm right on that. Guys, before we jump into the video, however, if you enjoy my content, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out the links in the description box below to further support my work. And now, with no further ado, let's have a look.
Right. Aisha, so great to be speaking with you. Could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what your story is?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a big question. So I am, in a nutshell, a Cape Malay ex-Muslim. I was born in South Africa. I left South Africa when I was around 4 years old, moved to New Zealand, and then obviously eventually ended up in Australia. I come from a family that, when I was younger, was, I guess you could say, more of a liberal Muslim family, very laid back in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, things took a turn when my parents made the decision to go to Hajj, so to go to Saudi Arabia and perform the holy pilgrimage. After that, they started to adopt a lot more radical, you could even say extreme sort of views about Islam. And that fundamentally changed the way that our household operated. All of the things that I'd grown up with, being used to, watching, you know, certain soap operas with my mum were suddenly this terrible thing that you were not allowed to do anymore.
Okay, that is pretty easy, of course, to blame her for what she has done, but let's look into it and let's try objectively to learn something from the situation. I would say here that there was definitely a fault within her household, meaning that the parents brought her up pretty liberal, pretty laid back. They were watching some sort of degenerate series that you see nowadays in mainstream media. They're absolutely terrible. Nobody should ever watch those series in mainstream media, honestly, no matter what the religion. But that being said, then they go to the pilgrimage and they come back and they become extremists and radicals and whatnot. I would assume that they simply came back and became practicing, but nevertheless, for her, perceived, of course, this was a huge change. And I would say that in this instance, this is most definitely the fault of the parents, because they brought their children up liberal in Australia or New Zealand or whatnot, and then all of a sudden do a 180. And if you introduce Islam overnight, so to speak, people simply cannot understand it. It is too much for them. And this is why we read in the Quran as well, in Surah Al-Furqan, and those who disbelieve say, why was the Quran not revealed to him all at once? Thus it is revealed that we may strengthen thereby your heart, and we have spaced it distinctly. Which means the Quranic revelation unraveled over many, many years, so people could get prepared for pure Islam. Because if you look into the pagan peninsula of Arabia at the time, those people were drinking alcohol and many other things. So at first, alcohol was to be minimized. It wasn't prohibited totally, but then over a few stages, it got prohibited completely. The same applies to interest, riba, for example. It ultimately means that people wouldn't have been ready if everything was revealed right away. And therefore, parents that brought their children up liberal cannot expect of the children to simply adapt and change the way that they changed overnight. And therefore, a gradual approach would have been needed here, of course. So now I'm not defending her because she seems pretty dishonest right from the get-go, but nevertheless, I'm saying this as a piece of advice to parents watching.
So that's my family in a nutshell. I told my family that I had left Islam not that long ago, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. As a result of that, they disowned me. But as my sister likes to put it, it's not even that bad. She says, it's not like you were honor killed, because apparently that's the baseline for ex-Muslims being able to speak out. So yeah.
Well, apparently, this is of course absolute nonsense, because so-called honor killings have nothing to do with the religion of Islam. I challenge you, look it up yourself. You won't find anything about so-called, yet again, honor killings within Islam, or that you should take the law into your own hands and simply execute people. Absolute lies yet again.
I've been like as an ex-Muslim since leaving the faith.
Who's this guy
Before I came out
anyways?
publicly as an ex-Muslim, in some ways it was better because I didn't have to deal with things like death threats. No one aside from my little community knew that I left Islam. And so I probably felt a lot safer back then, but also a lot more isolated. I wasn't connected with people that had been through the sort of things that I'd experienced. And when I made the decision to go public with my apostasy, my life turned upside down. I didn't expect to get the attention online that I ended up receiving. I was just some random person sharing their life story.
Sure.
And apparently that makes people really, really upset.
This is so insane, so cringe and so fake ultimately. Why does she need to sit down now with this Western clean-shaven man and discuss her so-called apostasy after all? Why don't we see this from ex-Buddhists, ex-Christians, ex-Hindus and whatnot? They don't end up labeling themselves. They don't pull out the victim card. Why is it always with so-called ex-Muslims? Why do they have to pedestal themselves, victimize themselves? Look at me. I am an ex-Muslim, don't you see? And now I'm reaching out to others that suffered the same way. This is absolutely ridiculous. You could call me an ex-Christian, if you will, because I grew up in an Orthodox Christian household. And when I accepted Islam, alhamdulillah, yes, my parents disowned me as well. But you don't see me crying about it, going on interviews, talking about it. I'm an ex-Christian now. No, I found a new identity, if you will. I am a Muslim now, alhamdulillah. And this is what I talk about. Why don't you talk about liberalism?
So yeah,
because
it changed
that's what
my
it is.
life in a lot
As
of
always.
ways, but ultimately it was for the best, because the bottom line is that I'm now living a free life on no one's terms except my own.
And how much support have you
There you
had?
have it. They say things and they don't understand what they're saying. Now I'm free. Now I'm living life on my own terms. What does that mean? Of course, she's not further reflecting at all. It simply means I joined everybody in this liberal world and I'm following my own desires. The exact same thing that I mentioned in the beginning. She does not care for what is right or wrong. She doesn't care for objective moral standards whatsoever. She simply cares about her perceived freedom, whatever that means. So right now, the Western society in Australia as well, of course, will dictate that your freedom is to wear all kinds of clothes that you want, expose as much skin as you want, hook up with anybody that you want, get an abortion. After all, it is your life. That is the freedom that you yourself, of course, want to follow. She doesn't understand that she simply got brainwashed into a different type of ideology, but she doesn't recognize that because she conflates it with freedom, as if it was some sort of ultimate standard of freedom where she can do whatever she wants now in society. That is, of course, impossible because society always comes with rules. She simply became a sheep of society, a slave of society. As Muslims, on the other hand, we do not worship society. We worship God alone, and therefore we are slaves of Allah.
From, say, the left or other commentators or organizations in the West?
I would say that I get little to no support whatsoever from people who consider themselves left-leaning. That, in my view, comes down to their fear of being labeled as Islamophobic, of being labeled as racist. And what I tend to find is that the left, who claim to be in support of minorities like myself, do not actually
Minorities.
value or care about our lived experience when it doesn't suit their narrative.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolute victimhood, as I said already. Total victimization of yourself. Minorities like myself. And now, who is supposed to care about this? The left, right? And this just shows you yet again that she simply subscribes to liberalism, to leftism, and now expects somehow the left to victimize her as well, to buy into her framework, into her newfound identity of the victim of evil, evil Islam. This is so absolutely ridiculous.
Quite a hard thing to hear. And
Yeah,
if you
very
were
hard.
to maybe
What happened?
have
She's
a
sitting there.
message for
Nothing's
the
happening.
left, the people who are supposed to be supporting you, what would it be?
Listen to us. I think we're at the point where we just need people to listen.
Oh, yes,
and we
please.
need them to listen with an open mind. We need them to listen in a way where they're not doing it from a pedestal, looking down on us, condescending to us, and trying to tell us what our experience was like. We just want people to listen.
All right, guys, and this is it for today's very short, but nevertheless very, very pathetic video after all. She ends her speech with wanting the left to listen to her. Simply listen to what we have to say. Why? Why do you need them to listen to you? It is so absolutely ridiculous. Why would I care who listens to me and who appreciates what I'm saying? As I said, if you want to label me as an ex-Christian, as an ex-Orthodox Christian from the Balkans, okay, let's do that. Boo-hoo, I'm such a victim. No, I don't do that. I simply talk about what I find interesting, and some people will find it interesting just like myself, and others won't at all. So those people won't subscribe to this channel. It's very, very simple. But those people, they always play the victim, and they need other people to listen to them and to somehow see their pain, as if something happened to her. What exactly happened? Are you coming from some sort of war-torn country? Have you been attacked? Have you been hit? Have you been beaten? What exactly happened to you? You simply left the religion of your parents and now you have a disagreement. Boo-hoo! Yet again, since I reverted to Islam, I haven't talked to my father at all. So this is something that I have to take into consideration, of course, if I leave the faith of my parents. It's just common sense. Duh. Obviously, there will be some sort of stress. But ultimately, I'm not victimizing myself because I simply pursue my path as a man. You, on the other hand, obviously do not do that. You're not certain within your own identity. And this is why you look for confirmation bias, ultimately, from the man on the left or on the right, from whichever angle you might be watching. He has to say, oh yes, that's very distressing. Yes, that's absolutely horrible. Even though, yet again, absolutely nothing happened. You traded faith for liberalism. It is always the same blueprint with all of those so-called ex-Muslims. Alright guys, and that's it for today's video. If you liked it, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out the links in the description box below to further support my work. And as always, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي